Hello everybody. Welcome to the center. Everybody, just continue to get food. Dinner's in the hallway if you didn't hear Heather, or if you're just arriving. So just please get food. We're going to go ahead and get started. So if we could just um, do so quietly and respectfully. It's wonderful to see all of y'all here. We got a lot of people in the house and a lot of wonderful writers and community members. Um, really quickly, some things just for the Appalachian Center. You see these yellow cards in front of you. If you're able to scan that QR code and give us some feedback on this event, that would be much appreciated. That will keep the grease in the machine turning, if you will, as we give feedback to the college and say, hey, look at all the wonderful things we're doing. Bathrooms are past the food down there to the right by the water fountains. Hard to miss. Please silence your cell phones. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end where I'll help pass around a microphone. Leave whenever you're needed. You are welcome to come and go as you please. So do whatever you need to do in this moment. Be comfortable. Sign up for the quilt. We got a sign up sheet over here if you want to get some of our updates and things happening, especially you community members and people. You on campus probably get our blast about stuff all the time, but that's another way to stay connected. And then what else? Our next dinner on the grounds is February 6th. And it is titled Dark Night Sky. If you want to join us in a couple weeks, dinner and conversation with Jeff Berry, a physics and astronomy professor at Colgate College from McDowell County, West Virginia. And that event is in collaboration with the English Department and the Forestry Outreach Center. So our next one of these will be on February 26th. Again, I'm going to welcome up Lee Ford, one of our Berea College students, a writer and wonderful individual who works for the Appalachian Review as well. And I want to get this right. Winner of Sarah Band Books 2023, first place winner of Sarah Band Books 2023 Flo Galt Student Poetry Prize winner for the poem titled Child of the End Times. So Lee's going to come up and introduce Melissa and all of the writers of the wonderful anthology.
Okay, so my impression of this collection was that it is very wet. When I was carrying it around, I was carrying the book around, it's like blue and black, and thinking about what I was going to say to introduce it, and I felt like I was carrying a cup of water around with me during this rainy day. And throughout it, one of the major characters in Troublesome Rising is creeks and rivers. They're kind of mercurial members of the community who bring comfort but also bring threat throughout the collection, and which covers the histories of floods in Appalachia as well as the most recent floods, and specifically how they affected Heinemann Settlement School, where, and this is from the back of the book, the school lost classrooms, housing, and gathering areas, as well as valuable equipment and irreplaceable artifacts such as historical nooks and documents, photographs, and handmade musical instruments from the school archives that were damaged. And I'm introducing Melissa Helton, who put together this collection, who is the literary arts director at Heinemann Settlement School and has belonged to the Heinemann writing community since 2005. Her work has been published in Shenandoah, Still the Journal, Anthology of Appalachian Writers, the Appalachian Review, the Norwegian Writers Climate Campaign, and more. So here you go.
All right. There we go. Haha. We're going to try to get this set up so if our writers want to sit. But yeah, so I'm Melissa Helton. Has anybody here been to Heinemann Settlement School? Okay, so a lot of you are all very familiar. I'm going to kind of make a brief introduction about the place, the flood, the anthology, but I want to get us to our writers, and then we'll have time left over for a Q&A. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you to Rick and to Chris and to everybody who's helped organize this. Can I get this to not flop down? All right. So Heinemann Settlement School is in Knott County, about 2 hours from here. And we were founded in 1902. May Stone and Catherine Pettit came down. And we were basically a boarding school up until the 1970s. And then we transitioned into a nonprofit. We've got 4 main programs. We get the literary arts, which I'm so honored to be part of. We also have traditional arts, things like dulcimer, quilting, square dancing. We have dyslexia tutoring that we do throughout several counties. And then we have our foodways, which is like community gardening, Appalachian foodways, the farmers market, stuff like that. So if you've looked at the book at all, you'll see that we are in the middle of our Appalachian Writers Workshop when the flood happened, July 27th and 28th of 2022. And I won't go into all the details of it, but suffice it to say, everybody who was there made it out. A lot of them lost their cars, property. Everybody has some level of trauma from it. The official, Governor Beshear officially said in October of that year that the death toll was 45. But how can you actually calculate that? 22 of them were in Knott County, which being a small county, that's a huge percentage. And we can't really calculate the actual lives lost, because if somebody was heartbroken and the stress of recovery caused a heart attack 2 years later, they're not counted. If somebody was in drug recovery and it pushed them back into active use and they OD'd yesterday, right, they're not counted. So, and recovery is still going on. There are still buildings that are gutted out. Some of our buildings haven't been repaired. We had an estimated of $3 million worth of damage to our campus, and I think our flood insurance covered $100,000. So recovery is slow. 2 years later, we finally got offices. We're no longer in cubicles in the Great Hall, so that's nice. We have desks and doors we can close. It's amazing. But when University Press Kentucky asked me to do this, we have an imprint called Fireside Industries. Silas House is the editor of that series and chooses what gets published. They asked me to do an anthology on the side. And it was an immediate yes, immediately honored. It's something I'm always going to be proud to have helped usher in. And so part of the challenge was deciding who to ask, because our writing community is so rich, so brilliant. How do you just choose 60 people? And so one thing I do want to say is in the back of the book, it talks about a companion website, troublesomerising.org, and that should go live like this week. And then we will have an opening for more submissions to come in, because this is an ongoing thing. So our art about it is an ongoing thing. And as now our flood is contextualized with Helene, as well as the floods of the past. What are we going to have to say about this flood 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And so that's going to be an ongoing thing. So I'm very happy to be here. And I didn't know some of these UK students were here. They're looking at this box in my lap. Y'all are wondering what's going on. So we had some UK design students on campus just 2 days ago, and they gave us this beautiful gift. They had read selections from the anthology. And then they gave me this box when our time was over. And in it, these students, whatever piece they had selected, they designed and embroidered a quote from it. So this is going to be quilted together and added into our archive. And I brought it today not knowing that they were going to be here. And if your author is here, I definitely want to get a photo. Because what a beautiful testament, right? So this flood happened. Our writers made these individual pieces, and I put them together into a book. And then these students are making these individual pieces, and somebody, I don't know who yet, is going to quilt these together. And I imagine these things, this quilt hanging in our new office spaces, and then maybe someday somebody making a photograph of it or making a poem of it. And I think that's a beautiful testament to the creative act and how it builds community, even when you're separated by time and space. Because when our writers were writing these pieces, they had no way to know that this would happen, let alone what's going to happen with it in the future. So thank you all. And we've got like 4 or 5 minutes each so that we have room for some Q&A. First, Tyler Barrett's going to start us off, and he's one of the photographers. So we had poetry, fiction, nonfiction in this collection. And since he was there through the whole thing, there was 6 of his photos in there. And so he's going to come up and talk a little bit about his photos, and then we're going to read in the general order that people appear in the anthology. So over here, the Visitor Center is selling copies of the book if you want to get it. And they also have limited edition. One of the photos Tyler's is going to talk about, they're signed and the limited edition numbered prints of this duck photo from the book. So feel free to, as you're moving around, if you want to get a copy, they can help you over there. So thank you guys.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, let me lower it a little bit. My torso is shorter than Melissa's is. So my name is Tyler. Like Melissa said, I have 6 photos in the book. And we figured we'd throw me up here to offer a little bit more visual context before we hear all the beautiful written pieces. So I'm originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm a pretty recent transplant here in Kentucky. I moved to Hyman in 2020, and I was on campus, living on campus during the flood. And I had never met anyone down at the settlement school. But after the floodwaters rose and after the devastation that occurred, I went down and they hired me on to be one of the volunteer coordinators. So I was right there in it the whole time. And I'm primarily a graphic artist, but I also take photos just for myself. And I never really thought anything of it. What I was documenting at the time, I didn't realize that it would have any historical value. And shout out to Melissa for recognizing the potential in my photos to be put in an anthology like this. So anyway, yeah, I have the 6 photos that I took. I'm just gonna go through them real quick. So this is the iconic bridge at Hyman Settlement School. It's in the logo. It's pretty synonymous with the settlement school, and it crosses Troublesome right here. You can see where there's a dumpster sitting up against a bridge. The water was, I don't know, how high does the bridge sit above Troublesome? Like 10 feet, 12 feet? Yeah. So water was up above it, and there was everything from cars to dumpsters to propane tanks crashing into it, and everyone that was on campus thought that it was a goner. Thankfully, when the water receded that next day, we saw that it was still there. And when I took this photo, I didn't really know the historical significance of the bridge. But it looked so, I guess, regal that it survived through that chaos the way it did. And just happy I took that one. This next one is when the work started on, because the whole lower floor of the settlement school was taken out. And so there was probably like 4 or 5 dumpsters filled by the end of it, but this is everything that was in that bottom story. Sure. Okay. Help me out, Ray. Yeah. Thank you. Good. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, this is one of the dumpsters that was filled up. And this is when Hyman, the summer school turned into a donation center as community relief efforts started. And this is when pretty much it was in full swing. We had stacks of paper towels, everything from dog food to fans to donated clothes, everything in between. And it was really beautiful to watch the community come together just immediately after such a devastating event. We also had therapy dogs come in. There was an organization that brought in therapy dogs to help with any emotional turmoil that people were in. Because, who doesn't love a hug from a dog? It makes everything better, right? This picture is of Moses. When I met Moses, he kind of seemed like a permanent fixture that just came with the settlement school just for decades. And I always thought there was such a big history about him and I don't know, just his presence. Like it seemed like he could fix he's one of those guys that can just fix anything. And he actually got the old cistern right up on the hill. He got that working when we were out of water for, I think it was maybe 2 weeks. but he got it working. So the settlement school had water, and we could provide shelter for a lot of the displaced community members. And then this last photo is, it's kind of become the hallmark photo between a lot of us that were there on campus and that know the story about these ducks. They washed from a little farm on Frogtown Road that's up the creek from the settlement school. And it was, they washed down when the floodwater was highest, and they kind of hunkered down at the settlement school and just stayed there for weeks. They stuck together and rode out the storm, and I just thought it was very like a perfect symbolism for how the community responded, and the way that we rose up through all the adversity. And so that duck photo leads me. Let's see here. So before I read this, I wrote a poem about inspired by these ducks when we got the anthology in hand that first time. But through taking these photos and realizing that what I was doing to just kind of remember things, because my memory is not the best. I always took photos for myself, but it's kind of helped me realize as I get older and through events like this that taking photos helps me metabolize like bite-sized pieces of life. So especially tragic things like this aren't so overwhelming. Anyway, so this little thing I wrote, it's not in the book, obviously, but it's going to be published on the companion website. It's called Bound Memories. Where there's ducks, there's water. Sometimes even too much. Too much for streets, too much for homes, too much for trees and bridges and lives, too much for ducks. But like water, we rise, like ducks, we float. Soaked to the bone, sorrow rolling down our backs, feet scarred from treading poisonous shockwaves, staining the feathers of our wings, all that damn mud, flooding our hearts with trauma and ache and grief in these people. Like water, we rise, like ducks, we float. All these folks, this community, this vibrant, beautiful chaos, unfurling like gardens after rain, so much rain. Enough to confiscate history and enough to heal its wounds. Grace and connection washing over us, brought by the water who overflows our dreams. Troublesome tears tore through these coal-seamed hills, stripping saturations like a watercolor spill. And yet, we float, and yet, we rise. Thank you.
Sure, I can sit. Hello. Thank you. It's good. I got it. My name is Bernard Clay, and I'm extremely honored and lucky to be included in this collection. I set eyes on the Troublesome Creek like hours before it flooded for the first time. It was the first time I set eyes on it in a workshop at Hyman for the first time. So it's very, and I made very meaningful connections with people that day. And it struck me, and that's why I'm so honored to be included in this, that Melissa, who did an awesome job on this collection, you should buy it because it's an awesome job on curating this collection. But to include me in it, I just feel immense honor. So I'm going to read my pieces. I'm not going to talk too much because I want to give all the other talented writers all the time in the world to talk about it, because they have a lot more deeper connection with Hyman than I have at this time. They freaks of nature. They say it was a 1,000-year flood that hit the Cumberland Plateau and turned creeks into Niles and rivers into Caspian seas. This place, that eons of tectonic collisions, glaciation, and erosion have architected into a perfect rain percolating nursery for birthing headwaters. This is the place that can be flooded. This same they will also say no humans inhabited Kentucky 1,000 years ago because they only detect by what has been destroyed and left behind. But the ones here back then were so integrated in the robust ecosystem that they later methodically dismantled. There was hardly a trace left by the time the real science was discovered. But if asked back then, those indigenous folks probably would confuse what are they talking about faces would say, it's water. How can there be too much? While now in the news, every other day, 1,000-year floods pop up in a new spot on the planet. Heck, if the Appalachians were asked if floods like this had been seen back 10,000 or even 10 million years ago, those mountains would chuckle and say, we haven't seen anything like this since we were ocean bottom during the Devonian age. The next poem is called Elegy for Eastern Kentucky Grocery. How does an oasis drown in a desert? Does it really matter once it's gone? Once the aisles and everything in them break down and compile in a disintegrated heap? Out on a parking lot in front of that hometown proud sign taunting those driving by, having to go 40 more minutes for some damn fresh food. Over 50 years, Gwen's been here, where most Black folks call sundown country, holding her hamlet down as a cornerstone with reasonably priced meats and staples, right between Cat's Barbershop and Super Dollar, unapologetically Black and Appalachian, independent and owner, untouched all this time. Cause who's gonna bite the only hand that feeds them, no matter the color? But why resurrect this place? It can easily be taken away again. That Rockhouse Creek isn't going anywhere, but that sentiment passes quick cause Gwen's not built like that. She puts this community on her back, converting the skeleton of her storefront into a triage and calls all in need down from them hills, which in this age attracts the viral content spotlight, leading to national morning show invites, to Broadway tickets, to state acclamations from the governor, to comically and monetarily large checks, and corporate support to not just rebuild, but modernize the whole building. And of course, Gwen calmly takes it all in with poise, because one day, the red IGA sign will be a lit beacon in Isom again. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Letha Kendrick. Let me see if I can get this. Is this okay? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to read an essay or part of an essay that's in here. You will see from the essay what my connection to Heinemann is, so I'll just start right in. It's a little essay called Invisible Essential. First, there is paralyzing grief, a deafening, if soundless howl that wants everything back as it was, wants families waking up in their beds, grandmothers safe in their morning kitchens, and homes intact and dry. No one dead, no wall of water tearing down narrow valleys between hills stripped of trees and soil, rainfall coming faster than the creeks can carry it away. No mud and debris, no washed out bridges. It's late in the afternoon of July 28th, 2022. And from the distance of my writing room in Lexington, I am listening to Georgella Lyon on the phone as she narrates how she fled from the ground floor apartment up the stairs in the Mike Mullins Center and then up the hill through the darkness and rain to Stuckey. How she and the others in the Appalachian Writers Workshop who'd been trapped at the Heinemann Settlement School finally, agonizing hours later, managed to cross the mud-covered treacherous bridge, how they caravanned along a circuitous route of detours around flooded roads and away from the devastation. I am numb as I realize how narrow her escape was. At first, because I did not have to move through mud and wreckage, I reject the reality of loss. I drove across a flat wooden bridge onto the settlement school campus for the first time in August 1987, expecting to spend 2 or 3 days commuting to the Appalachian Writers Workshop. Georgella had urged me to attend. I had 3 young girls at home near Prestonsburg, about 45 minutes away. I thought it would be easy to come and go, sit in on classes, maybe hear some of the evening readings. By the second day's lunch, I did not want to leave. Like many people who have come to the settlement school over the years, I will return again and again as a writer and later on as a workshop leader and editor, embraced by a close-knit, if far-flung community. Back then, before Google, before Garmin even, remember Garmin? We had to find our way to Heinemann somehow if we wanted to go to the writer's workshop. Someone had to chart the way and pass the map along because the settlement school lay far off the beaten path. But the back of the mimeograph trifold writer's workshop brochure, back then it was a trifold mimeograph brochure, included a map. The map said, heavy lines indicate best route. This map, no doubt drawn by Mike Mullins, floated in the center of the page. It could have been a rendering of the main lines on an open palm with Heinemann roughly at the center, at the heart of all the intersections. The artist had included only the main highways, Route 80, Route 23, Route 119. Those of you who've been up there know. And they were darkly inked. So in 2002, when Georgella Lyon and I conceived and edited Crossing Troublesome, 25 years of the Appalachian Writers Workshop, that map went on the title page. But we also wanted to include a map of the way the settlement school looked then, because everything was getting ready to change. The old Heinemann Library was going to be torn down and a new learning center, and all the renovations that were there when the flood came and hadn't happened yet. So this is our 100-acre woods map, like in the front of the Winnie the Pooh books. That's what we wanted to have. When I look at that map now, I mostly see what it cannot capture, the feel of the workshop. Those of us who have been to the Appalachian Writers Workshop know the campus as an embodied place, a place apart with its own weather, its own rituals and traditions, and yes, a particular configuration of buildings and landscape that exists both within and outside time. For one intense week each year, the workshop rises there. Our attention sharpened through hours of talking and listening, we receive the intense sensory experience of Heinemann in full summer. The dense air heavy with moisture, the sounds of insects and birds, industrial dishwasher and the clatter of plates and silverware as we clear up and wash up after meals, the rise and fall of voices, the songs and bursts of laughter echoing from the porches. What is essential but invisible to the eyes, to paraphrase Saint-Exupéry, is the spirit embodied there, a vibrant scholarship, a living literature, and a generosity alive in what Mike Mullins once called one of the most supportive environments you will ever find. What mattered about Heinemann was not something I could map, though my loving description of the place served as a memento of what I had found there. If this settlement school spot of ground seems to contain a power out of proportion to its remote location and humble facilities, it's because that power is real. This place at the Forks of Troublesome has served as a portal to larger worlds since the school was first founded in 1902. Catherine Pettit and May Stone arrived with a determination to create opportunities for education and better health, but it was never a given that anything like the settlement school could survive on that bed of earth. And in the early days, the school suffered repeated setbacks, fires especially, and floods also. The school was founded in 1902. It burned in 1905, 1906, 1909. And the really devastating fire in 1905 took out the whole place. Not only were all of the personal possessions of the teachers gone, but the library of over 2,000 books had been destroyed as well. The planning, design, labor, and craftsmanship embodied in those buildings and the books, painstakingly assembled, all gone. But rather than quitting, Pettit and Stone, undaunted, gathered their far-flung community. They wrote letters, and in the yearly newsletters spoke of the strong spirit that arose in them after the devastation. In the summer of 1906, they rebuilt. To everyone's amazement, Jess Stoddard said in her history of the settlement school, the 4 buildings were completed within 10 weeks. Together, they had built a facility better than the one they lost. The parallels between 1906 and the weeks following the devastation in July 2022 are inescapable. Within hours, the settlement school became a center for relief efforts. Even as cleanup and rebuilding began, volunteers, both local people and people who had suffered their own losses, and people who had never even heard of Heinemann until the flood, showed up to do what they could. And those of us who could not get to the settlement school looked for something to do. So I go on in the essay to talk about a student of mine who contacted me. I was not even in Kentucky. And she said, I want to do something. Her name was Kathy Perkins. I said, well, maybe we can. She said, I've got a place. I want to do a reading. We can make it a fundraiser. Well, I told her from the beginning that the biggest problem she would face was that every Heinemann writer who would want to be part of that reading. She thought, oh, I'll get 2 or 3 people. As I emailed old friends and clarified what she needed to make the reading happen. Even from 2 states away, I was part of a community that first had nurtured me 35 years ago and led me toward myself as a writer. We have Heinemann in common, an invisible force of heart and mind. The reading came off with more than a dozen writers and raised $7,000 for the settlement school. As I was writing this essay, everything that I was reading or hearing felt like part of what I was writing. And that happens sometimes when we're working on something that matters to us, when we grope for language to do justice to our dearest things. I was reading a memoir called Lost and Found, a wonderful memoir by Catherine Schultz that grapples with grief and joy and the things that allow us to go on. And in that memoir I read, it is easy to feel small and powerless. Easy, too, to feel amazed and fortunate to be here. On the whole, though, I take the side of amazement. For now, at least, the world is ours to notice and to change. And to me, that seems sufficient. Ours to notice and to change. We are caretakers. Our role here is temporary, as Schultz points out at the end of her book. None of us would be here without what came before us, and none of us can know how much and in what ways. Everything that will come after depends on our being here. When lives are lost and entire towns wiped away by winds and fires and floods of this new climate reality, it occasions a grief so profound as to be paralyzing. And yet this now is our time. It is all we have, all we can do, all we can use to honor the people who have gone before us and the love that brought these lost worlds into being. The map keeps changing, but what it maps, invisible, essential, remains.
I'm going to try to stand. My name is Melva Sue Pretty. I first went to Heinemann the summer between my sophomore and junior, no, my junior and senior years here at Berea. The English department paid my way, and I've been forever grateful. So I was there, and you will hear that from these two poems. The shape water takes. It can come in on a rush or in silence, with or without an alarm to roust. Black or red or brown, no soil perfectly safe. Saying no, no, no won't make yes, yes, yes. Bless the rain or curse the rain, there is no human choice. Tie a canoe to a chimney top or a raft to the porch, and you'll never be ready for the torrent that comes. Car, truck, or van at the bottom of the hill is no more safe than you in the middle of the night when floodwaters come silently or noisily as that first slush is hushed until water rushes high enough, raises to sink pole beans, sunflowers, the porch steps, then crosses the road to close off your only way out. Your nightmares roused you, or your son calls. Perhaps the phone left on silent or in another room, but you hear it if you've been praying diligently through the drought. Torrential rains 3 days in a row, the hillside saturated, but the insurance lapsed. You'll climb the stairs, the attic, the trees higher behind the house. If the animals can drown, so too you. Mudslides, roads cave, your sister washes away, but you don't know that yet. 10 feet, 26 feet, is there any difference? Water rushes every window, every curve, slowing for no one, builds as she carries more weight. More weight become debris. If you survive, you inherit stories of all floods before. The thieves who may steal afterwards, the least of your worries. Thank you. This is from Furman, which is a dormitory log cabin there on the campus. From Furman. Upon waking at 2 a.m., other women, there are 9 of us in this upstairs room, have scrambled to the 2 small windows facing the road. They clamor, crowd, murmur in awe, no distinct words. My bed is on the farthest wall. They stare out the windows, pull on shoes as they tumble into shirts and start out of the room. Alarms sound out of sync, everybody's phone, flood warning, imminent danger. As they move away, I walk to the window, look, but don't see, don't know what I'm looking for. Then, enlightening, farmers, market pavilion across the road, water up to the roof, impossible. White truck floats behind pavilion, how possible? Red car floats, how possible? I remember a woman in workshop the day before watching the rain. I asked if she was worried. She's local, said her daughter was alone at home. Her road had flooded out twice already this summer, and it never had before. I remember asking if she wanted to go home early. Pulling on shoes, I joined other women on front porch, thundering rain voices, muffled waterfall rumbles, mountainside. On right, heavy water curtain falls running straight down mountain, floods yard 4 inches, roadway on left. Holler behind us releases mud water, churns asphalt. But I'm not sure. Ask, is that buckled asphalt? The 3 sharp upsurges nearly the height of a car? Yes, yes. When it's within half hour, electricity out, flashlights. There used to be flashlights in all the rooms, but none. Cell towers may go. Young women scramble to save fresh water inside, bring trash cans out to catch rainwater. I think out loud, flashlight in my car, boots in the car. A young woman says, I have boots on, and retrieves my boots from the back seat. I scrounge 4 flashlights stashed in the trunk, bless husband, spit between upstairs, downstairs, 2 on the porch, to watch the water level, but none of us go back to bed. Cars already moved upward lot. Someone says we, Furman, high enough, but we plan to move up the mountainside if the water starts to cross that road. I call husband 4 a.m., reassure him I'm okay. He often stays up late watching TV. Don't want him worried. Waters flood first floor library across the road. We're cut off from the settlement school's main buildings, cut off from the main body of people. But the musician who woke us after night party ended drives back and forth, tells us some cars flooded Main Street, Hindman, flooded then whole of Hindman, flooded, no open routes, bridge never flooded, flooded. Houses collapsed, homes washed away, roads washed out, vehicles washed. A bad odor none of us recognize. Diesel, gas, oil, or what, we don't know. After daylight, we walk across the road and survey the damage. Someone calls us to open refrigerator breakfast. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Hugs, 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 tears. We repeat our own versions of what we have seen, repeat versions of what we remember, repeat our worries. Cars had been pulled up the mountain road to Priest, bumper to bumper. Ground floor of Mullins Center destroyed. We wait for floodwater to recede, road closure notices. Most EMTs and safety officers flooded out. 3 people known dead. Talk, talk, talk. Tension and laughter. We wait and wait. Released, we drive out earlier than expected. We secure rides for those without transportation. Only one safe route out. Slowly drive past devastating scenes. Main Street, all windows broken. Water halfway up storefronts. Only one lane dug out across one bridge out of Hindman. Opposite side of road, the whole neighborhood flooded. Never seen water this powerful. I call husband, turn left on 80. Will not try Jackson Route 15. Body suddenly jittery, stop to breathe before continuing homeward. I won't make it. I call friend in Berea. I don't even know where I am. Come, she says, stop here to rest, and I do. I think I'm in shock. Talk, talk, talk. Soup, sleep for an hour. So many people have lost so much. This I know without being told. Going home when so many have lost homes. Everything, then tune into news images beyond that morning's reach, drifting images, brown watershed images, sunshine, green, grass, green, green, trees, destruction, deaths mount, descriptions mount, can't sleep. Thou no more news, but people lost children, homes, lost so much. Mudslides in bones for days. Others lost so much, lost beyond understanding. The shock in my body for days, unable to talk without hurting. And I don't even live there. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Worthington. Thanks, Rick, for hosting us, and Chris, and thank you, Melissa. I met Melissa at Hindman. I don't remember when, a long time ago. I wanted to start by reading Frank X. Walker's poem in this collection because it's a beautiful companion to Bernard Clay's poem about Gwen Kristen, who owned the IGA in Letcher County and serviced her community and then lost everything. She was, I don't know if you know this or not, but last year she was named the National Grocer of the Year because of all the rebuilding that she's done at that store. So this is Frank's poem about Gwen Kristen and the IGA. It's called Elvis. Elvis captured Gwen Kristen's story in a song almost 50 years ago, except her lost love was a grocery store in Isom, and the long walk was more of a swim. He was right about the dozen towns. He was right about the lonely back roads. He must have seen Letcher County and its surrounding hollers under 6 feet of muddy water. He must have had visions of school buses only visible by their roofs. When he said, "Love too strong to let you go," He must have known about the decades she would pour into her IGA, the people she would feed, the community she would nourish, and her own flood of tears when the store was gone. He was right about the old men and the general store. He was right about the preacher man and his prayers, but he was mostly right about that cold Kentucky rain. So I have a really short poem in this collection. The night of the flood, we were maybe in the second highest elevated place on campus, but somebody woke us up about 3 a.m. and told us to evacuate. And I couldn't make my mind understand why we're so high up. Well, the building is built into the side of a mountain, and so they were afraid that, there would be a mudslide and it would kill us if we were in the building. So we evacuated down the hill and then back up the hill to where everybody else was staying. And the thing that struck me the most, one of the things that struck me the most about the flood, because I'd never experienced a flood, and I hope I never have to experience one again, was how fast the waters rose and how fast they receded once it stopped raining. That was amazing to me. So this is called Rise and Fall. And there's an epigraph from another flood poem by the poet Catherine Wakefield that reads, "The creek argues with the rain, growing bolder before losing itself, overcoming the banks that have defined it." More than just an argument with the rain, no, this creek was a broiling fracas. No little spat, harsh words spit and regretted later. This creek raised up its liquid fists and knocked out sheds. This creek swallowed, then spit back out whole cars, campers, and guardrails. This creek sank brown teeth into every crevice, filled every cavity with its dirty cascade, washed away keepsakes and photos, sluiced families in two. This creek stood up enraged, a mad push of water, higher than we'd ever seen. Later, shrinking back to its banks, a vestigial flicker of itself, for now, reflecting the sun. Thank you.
All right, I think I've got it right. Hi, y'all, and thanks for being here. And thank you, Rick. I think so. I'm good. Okay. Like others have said, honored to be included and grateful for all of you gathered tonight. I have 2 short poems for y'all. Oh, I'm Tina Parker. Thank you, Deborah. So, Tina Parker. Let's get this. How to sleep. You'll wake in a sweat. Who will die? Who is dying? Who is dead? Your jaw will be sore. Massage each side. Try an ice pack. Some ibuprofen might help. Most likely, you're grinding your teeth. You could be clenching your entire body to prepare for what is next. Learning from home. While places like ours wear on the nation's nerves, we hit the hairpin curves. We show our daughters strip-mined mountains, rail beds, boarded up UNWA buildings. We want them to learn from what we've lost. Want the Confederate flag curtains and car decals to take on greater meaning. Oh, how they long to vote. They want to leave, go anywhere big. They've learned what it is to hate. Look at the pretty birds, they say, and wave middle fingers out the car windows. Even in their dreams, they cuss and rail. No effing way. Thanks, y'all.
I am not that tall. All right, I think that works. I'm Savannah Sipple. I have attended the Appalachian Writers workshop at Hyman for many years, and I was not there the year the flood happened. But it's a place that has basically raised me as a writer, so it's near and dear to me. I'm going to read from a short story that I wrote for the collection. I'm a poet, and so fiction is new ground for me. But it was how it came to me. But also, the story takes place with the main character who is a queer woman in Eastern Kentucky and is considering leaving, and she's trying to make that decision. So a good bulk of the story is about a lot of metaphorical floods that she deals with. And then a few days before she's supposed to move, the flood happens. It's called Ain't No Grave. And if you've heard that, I don't think it's a hint. The church song, Ain't No Grave Gonna Hold My Body Down. That's what it's based on. I'm not going to sing, and you can be happy for that. But I'm going to read a scene from where she goes to her first drag show. They made their way to a curtained doorway, and Jake turned to make sure Anna was still behind him. This, he said, is the best part. Through the curtain was a large room with a stage. Tables and chairs circled the stage on three sides, and long booths ran along the side wall. Tucked in one corner to the right of the curtained doorway was a smaller bar, but it was even busier than the first one. Jake went straight to it and wiggled his way in to make an order. Anna tried to follow, but she kept getting distracted. She'd never seen so many gay people in a room at once. There were men and women coupled up, grouped up, holding hands, sneaking kisses, and wrapping their arms around each other. There was one group of what appeared to be straight women out for a bachelorette party, but almost everyone else seemed to be queer. Some had piercings or tattoos, some were scantily clad, and others looked to be dressed almost normally. Was that the right word? Anna felt so out of place. She focused particularly on the women, their low-cut shirts, their tight jeans, and the butch ones. They had on jeans and button-up shirts or plain T-shirts, and some even wore muscle shirts. Anna looked like she'd tried to dress straight and failed. Not quite queer, not quite right. Before she could panic too much, Jake pulled her to the bar to place an order. "What'll it be, honey?" the bartender asked. He was as short as a doorwoman and looked to be even older. He wore black pants, a white shirt, and a leather vest. His accent sounded like home. Anna loved him immediately. "What do you recommend?" "How about a come fuck me?" "What's that?" "It's our signature drink. You'll love it, honey." The man mixed what appeared to be several types of alcohol with pineapple juice and grenadine, threw a couple of cherries on top and a straw in the cup, and set it in front of her. "Baby, I just popped your cherry. Welcome to the bar. That'll be $10. She grinned and paid. Jake led her to a table that was to the right of the center stage, perfect for watching most of the room and close enough that they could easily tip the queens. His friends from dinner the night before soon found them, and Anna started to feel more at ease. There was something beautiful about the way people were coming and going, wiggling their bodies to the music, cheering the queens. Folks stood at the edge of the stage with $1 bills in their hands, waiting for the queen to come by and grab the money.
Some of them were blessed with a kiss on the cheek. Some of them blushed. Anna tried to take it all in, to breathe in the knowledge that all these misfits belonged here, together, when the next queen caught her eye. She was tall and tan with a neckline that plunged damn near her belly button, the curves of her breast held in by the tight edges of the dress. She started singing along to some song Anna knew but couldn't fully register because she was so taken in. She was turned on by her curves, her face, her entire body, and the way she danced to the music. Anna's ears started ringing, and in the back of her mind, she could hear the lyrics to the church band's signature song. The verse that kept running through her head was, "Oh, look way over yonder. What do you think I see? I see a band of angels, and they're coming after me." Why in the hell was that song stuck in her head now, of all times? Thank you.
Aha. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to the Appalachian Center for having us. Thanks to Melissa for the tremendous work to make this happen. She had to deal with people like me who kept sending her something and saying, "Oh no, that doesn't work." Sending it back, revising it. It was a prose piece, which I finally decided just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I have a poem that's in the anthology and then one short poem. I'm Georgia Lyon. When something terrible happens, it's in our nature to blame, to look for who do we blame, who made this happen. And so that's where this starts off. Don't tell me you were terrorized by Troublesome, which was only a creek doing what creeks do when rain torrents 10 inches an hour onto already saturated ground. So it's rain's fault then, unnatural, unceasing, giving its all till it's over the steering wheel, under the door, filling your room. It's tearing up trailers, hauling off houses, swilling children from their parents' arms. But no, it's not rain any more than it's troublesome. It's your kind blowing up mountains for coal. It's people greedy for ease and power who'll heat the seas till the whole planet boils. Don't curse Troublesome. Don't blame rain. When the water goes down, find a sliver of mirror. Clean it as best you can with no clear water. Then have a look. There's the face for your unwanted poster. There's your force behind the flood. My parents in Harlan County were in the flood of 77. And our measurement for it was water up to the piano keys. So being in the flood in Heinemann, brought back so much. And so this relates to both, and it's called What's on Our Plate? Rinsing the beans, searching out sticks and stones, pressure cooker regulator rocking, cornmeal in a blue bowl. Cold smoke slicing January air, stoker, furnace, clinkers, shovel and cast iron hook, hair ribbons in the hedge, river sludge in the kitchen. Act of God, they call it, flood, roof fall, bodies sealed in the mine. Money's men behind disaster, not even there to see it's still going on. Thank you.
kind of afraid of this thing. Um, Hi, y'all. I'm Amy Leanne Richardson, and I just have so much gratitude for this community. I don't know if there are more ways to say how much a place and a group of people can mean, but I'll keep trying for as long as I live. And I know that everyone that I've met there will too, because Hindman truly is a special place. It changed my life in all the best ways. It brought people into my life who pushed me to be the best version of myself. And there's not enough gratitude in the world for that. Thank you so much for having me here. Thanks, Melissa, for including me in this. It is such a great honor. When I was trying to write this piece, I struggled and struggled, and I know Melissa heard from me multiple times as well when I was like, I don't know what this piece is doing. So this is the longest poem I've ever written. I am not going to read all of it because we don't have time, but I am going to read a couple sections during the moment of the flood, during that time. So this piece is called It's Still Here, the Magic, and I'm going to start with section 2. In the beginning. It rained all day, then stormed well into dark. Lightning flashed through the windows as I tossed and turned, pulling up the weather app on my phone one more time. Alert after alert, vibrating, jarring me, each one increasing the inches of rain, increasing warning severity, increasing anxiety, driving thoughts to my children counties away, hopefully safe, asleep, unaware. Still in the hazy space between slumber, which never fully came, and awake, frantic knocking jerked me from bed, electric buzzing in the air. I slipped on shoes, opened the door. Flashlight strobes punctuating the night between lightning strikes, my stomach in rhythm, my mind fighting to absorb words, information, what was happening, this unreal present washed in the sick glow of emergency lights, haunting spaces where I'd laughed only hours before. I stood with a gut of lead in this place I adore. 3. Then we saw the water. I placed both palms on the railing, holding myself up where we huddled on Stucky's porch, staring. Rain still pouring, the creek roaring. I pushed slick water with both hands back and forth along the length I could reach, trying to ground myself. The only tactile sensations surrounding me, all tied to the flood my brain wasn't comprehending. I heard exclamations, expletives, ongoing chatter as each of us saw the water. Only visible in flashes of lightning, rising as we watched, nowhere to go but road cuts through mined mountains, nowhere to go but up toward us. My palms pressed tightly in place as gasoline permeated each breath. I heard others gasping, my own lungs tight. I turned back inside, pacing between panic on the porch and calm on the couches. I sat in a rocking chair, burning anxiety in short pulses instead of paces, listening to escape plans and reassurances, watching panic overtake my friends like the flood rising outside, already swallowing cars and buildings we'd believed safe. Hours of dark I rocked, glancing up through the skylight, watching for any sign of day, seeing only lightning for so long. We wandered, switched positions and places, waiting for news from unaccounted for friends, from town, from the world, missing constant connection of Wi-Fi and cell service, but there was no reaching us in this place. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. I also want to note this photo of after the sun came up, Amy took this photo. She walked over to the chapel. So we're out of time. I am happy to answer any questions. I know if folks need to leave, you need to leave. If you want to get a copy of the book or a copy of the duck photo, I'm sure any of the writers here would be happy to sign it. And I guess that's just, I want to make sure that if people need to leave, you can feel free to leave. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to continue the discussion. Okay, yeah. The books are $30. Yeah.
Here, Willie.
Really?
I think for any of the writers or artists, did someone else's work help recontextualize what happened for you in a particular, in a way that stands out or that you remember?
Well, while they're thinking about that, I can say most definitely did mine, because I spent that whole winter in my cubicle in the Great Hall. And as everybody's pieces came in, and I cried, and some parts of me got heavier and some parts of me got lighter. And I didn't go through the flood. I wasn't there that night. And so seeing what my friends and mentors and teachers and colleagues were going through helped me understand it. And one thing that I appreciate about a lot of the pieces, and they mentioned some past floods, but also we have some of our writers who connect our flood to tornado in Kansas in 1950, or connect it to a wildfire going on in Idaho. So I think that that's definitely something that we hope for the book to help us contextualize our experience in different ways. Yeah, Amy.
Oh, Mike, Amy.
I was just thinking about, as I read through this, hearing about what was happening over in Furman on the other side of campus, because I was in Stuckey, and so I only knew what was happening there. And then even what was going on in Stuckey, from my perspective, was different than the person I was sitting across from. And so when I've heard these stories and read these different pieces, it's provided more information and different perspectives from that same night. And it's also interesting when I was listening to someone read, and they were talking about, I think it was you, Melvo, talking about the person who needed to leave the workshop or was worried about the flood. And like, I've heard that person's story. And so it's like all of these different layers have added so much more depth to that one night. And I will say it was the most traumatic night of my life. And somehow, like, I don't know, having that other information, those other perspectives, it's just made it, I don't know, maybe the way Tyler was talking about how the photos help him metabolize, and those little pieces, like those little pieces have helped me kind of give it more perspective, context, or metabolize that whole event. So.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, honey, you got to be kidding me. Okay. Oh, I forgot. Okay, for those at home. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, like, first and foremost, I mean, it's going to be a question, but thank you guys so much for contributing to this. And thank you, Melissa, for putting it together, because for those of us who were in Kentucky or from Kentucky and from Appalachia and didn't and weren't there, but felt burnt at the roots when it happened and felt sort of the pull to a place that we had been a part of maybe a long time ago, that I'm really grateful for that. And I'm just curious. So on to the question, for you as the editor who wasn't actually there, how challenging, or what were the challenges you faced in kind of pulling together some of those pieces and stories for something that's going to be such a historic work, I think, for generations to come?
Well, thank you for the kind words. And after the initial agony of selecting the first batch of writers, because when you have so many, like I said, that's very difficult. And I literally cried about it. I saw what folks were sending in. Some of the people originally said yes, that they would contribute, but then when the time came to revisit it, they couldn't. So some people were asked that hopefully they'll be able to write about it eventually, but they couldn't at the time. I saw what the writers were sending in, and then I started looking at what gaps needed filled in. So I asked Elizabeth Lane Glass to write a piece specifically about how people with disabilities are impacted specifically in natural disasters. I asked Amelia Kirby to write a piece about mental health, and also looking at the types of experiences people were having on campus or off campus watching it. And so that was kind of a second challenge. The third challenge was just how to organize it, because so many people started at the same point. I woke up at night. We saw the terrible water. We ran to higher ground. And so trying to take the energy of the piece and kind of separating it into a before, during, after, and then a longer term or bigger picture. I don't know. So organizing it was definitely difficult. And then also deciding not to edit out any repetition. So a lot of people talked about the smell of the gasoline. They talked about, or was it propane, or was it kerosene, or was it diesel? A lot of people talked about a dog barking in the Stuckey bathroom. A lot of people talked about the ducks. And so deciding to keep those as they built a chorus of the things that people were noticing. So that was definitely one of the challenges. And that's why I'm so excited that we're going to have this companion website launching very soon, troublesomerising.org, so we can add more to the big picture. Thank you. Yeah.
When anyone goes through such a dramatic tragedy, there's this disenfranchisement, but also in coming out of it, we feel disenfranchised on so many levels. And I agree that the pictures helped us stitch us back in. There are pictures that were before, during, and after, and it helps bring clarity. And it did happen. It wasn't my imagination, and helps us to not bury it.
Oh yeah, I thank you for that. I firmly believe all the photos and the pieces, and on the website we have some videos even. I hope someday somebody writes a song and sends it to the website. You know, that this because if you're out looking at Troublesome Creek, it's normally 4 inches deep, and it tore through campus at 20 feet high. 20 feet high. So it was chest deep in the rooms that like Georgella was staying in. When the water finally broke through the doors and crashed through, it was chest high. And even going through it, you look at that tiny little creek and it's hard to understand that what happened actually happened. And so having these documentations certainly helps us remember and helps us understand in new ways.
You mentioned sort of Helene and, you know, unfortunately the reality that these things are going to happen, you know, are going to continue to happen. I just wondered, are there sort of broader collaborations or talks about sort of, linking with other folks?
Yeah, well, I think I know Annette Clapsettle's in this, and she wrote publicly about 26 months after our flood, she was going through Helene, and we were invited to do a reading in Eastern Tennessee, which was one of the regions that suffered through that. And the organizer asked me, "Is this in bad taste to do this so close?" And one of our events in Eastern Kentucky or Eastern Tennessee was actually canceled because they were going through flooding. And so we decided to have that event go on because it was that contextualizes this book in this bigger picture and this ongoing thing. And so I hope that fosters a lot of cross collaborations and connections. So, you know, if a place suffering from wildfire out in Idaho wants to use our documentation here and our experience to help understand and exchange so we can learn from their experience and they can learn from ours, I hope that the book can foster those kinds of experiences.
Thank you all again. One more round of applause. Buy the book, check out the prints, and just thank you all so much for the work you're doing. And if you've not heard of Heinemann and the Appalachian Writers Workshop, I can't stress enough. Just you heard all the readings, like it changes lives. So go check it out.
And don't throw away your plastic cups. I will recycle them.
And do the QR code if you haven't. Check it out. Give us a good review or something.